Hello and welcome back to the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. My name is Eric Herlock, and this is a special edition of the podcast. It's the first in a series of 4 special episodes. These are my conversations from the 8th annual NoCo Hemp Expo in Denver, Colorado that took place at the end of March 2022. This first conversation is with Sergiy Kovalenkov. He is from Ukraine, where he runs a hemp building company called Hempire. He's also a founding member of the US Hemp Builders Association. In this conversation, we will talk about the hemp industry in Ukraine, as well as the Russian war of aggression in Ukraine. Here we go. Sergiy Kovalenkov, welcome to the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. Could you introduce yourself?
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm Sergiy Kovalenkov, the founder of the company called Hempire. In 2015, I founded my own company where we developed our binders for hempcrete building applications. Before that, I was learning all about it. So basically, I got introduced to hempcrete about in 2010, and ever since then, it changed my life. And like I've said, in 2015, we founded a company in Ukraine, and now we also have a company in Hempire, USA, in California.
Yeah. Okay. And is there a lot of hemp building in Ukraine?
We've done over 60 projects over the last few years of different scale, size, and complexity. And I have to say that the gratitude from our clients, that's what's given us energy to move forward, because obviously it's a brand new product on the market, a lot of skepticism from the industry, from the builders, from the architects. So you have to convince all of them that it's a better solution, even though it's a little bit more pricey than the traditional construction and installation materials.
Right. I'm not too familiar with the history of hemp in Ukraine, but did you have the same sort of legal issues that we had here in the US, or have you been producing hemp there all of the 20th century?
Ukraine is like the alma mater of industrial hemp. Our best fiber institute is more than 70 years old now, and the first varieties of industrial hemp with the very low THC levels that were brought to France and Canada in the 90s, they came from Ukraine, and then in terms of cultivation of hemp, we didn't have a problem, specifically for fiber and grain. So we have the biomass locally. We developed a binder that is made 100% from local raw materials. So basically the task was for me to develop a material that would be 100% independent from import, so we relied only on local supplies, and we have successfully achieved that, and now we are trying to kind of move this forward. Now I'm one of the founding members of US Hemp Building Association, the only European on the board of directors, and now we're trying to educate people in the United States how magnificent this material really is.
Can you talk about the processing capacity in Ukraine?
It's not so big. I would say in the last few years the benchmark was maybe, under 10,000 acres really, because once again there is no incentives from the government, there is no subsidies, so farmers have to make that shift themselves, that carry that financial burden. And growing and processing hemp is it's a capital intensive activity, so it takes years to kind of bring business back to life after the major initial investments.
What lessons do you think the American hemp industry still needs to learn? Where are the holes in this, and what can they learn from your experience in Ukraine?
Well, definitely you need to have sufficient amount of genetics for different types of soil and climate zones. Of course, understanding, working with the institute on developing new varieties, working on testing plots, and finding out what are the best results, and of course scaling up. You need to get you need to understand who you're going to sell the product to before you start, investing in the equipment. Like I've said, it's not a cheap piece of machinery. It's a sophisticated one. It's a very small market niche for manufacturers of such equipment. So I would say collaboration is the most essential part. Sharing data definitely, and experience how to grow, harvest, and process is essential, because usually it takes 2 to 3 years time to just kind of dial in equipment and remove all the possible mistakes from the equation.
So getting back to your work as a hempcrete builder, do you do cast in place? Do you do spray applied, or what's your method for installation?
Our method is simple because labor is cheap in Ukraine. We do in situ casting, so we do it on site. Our binder works really well with on-site applications. The beauty about it is that we can remove the formwork instantly after we apply the material. Like the next minute you can shift it upwards, so we don't have to wait a second. So it's there is no technological delay, and it's very simple. And right now this is the best way, the most economical way to erect hempcrete in Ukraine. Ideally, of course, we would like to produce commodity products like blocks and panels that are more understandable for the market and the industry. Builders know how to work with this, and there is a lot less skepticism from architects as well. So architects is a big deal. The same like in US. They are really worried and scared how new product performs, especially when there is not enough sufficient data. So most of the data is coming from Europe, because we have more experience in using this technology there.
You mentioned the institute. What was the name of the institute in New
Bast Fiber Institute.
Bast Fiber Institute.
Yeah.
With the Russian aggression, the war, and the terrible things happening there, is that institute safe, or is that all of that information in jeopardy now?
Well, unfortunately, it's located 8 kilometers away from the border with Russia. That is like 5 miles away. So that little town is currently under occupation of Russian army. So of course the work has stopped, because security is the main priority. And human beings' life is of utmost importance right now. So it's quite clear that the workers of institute have to be evacuated along with their family members, and then possibly all the knowledge base, and would have to be moved and relocated for the continuation of work. But it's a disaster, because right now Ukrainian farmers are missing out on putting seeds into the ground as the aggression continues. So it could have devastating consequences
around the world.
People
rely on Ukraine for food.
Yeah. There is Ukraine is one of the biggest exporters of wheat, sunflower oil, and all kinds of agricultural crops.
Yeah, how are you able to stay focused on your work in hemp with everything that's going on at home?
Well, it's hard to focus. It's a disaster. Truly, it's like a genocide. When rockets been hitting residential buildings, and one day you see it on TV and you think it never will affect your life, but then the next day it hits the neighboring building, and then it started. It's kind of, you cannot prepare for it. Every single mother would agree with me, you cannot prepare for the birth of child. So this is the similar situation. It just happens to you, and then you have to kind of adjust. But it did forever change my life and life of many millions of Ukrainians.
Yeah. How has it affected you personally?
Oh, my business stopped on day one. That's it. Because it became super hard to move around the city with all the blog posts and all security measures, and it's being under attack. So you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, right? And of course, no one's thinking about business. You always think about security of your, protecting your family and loved ones. So that stopped. It's been a month since it has stopped. So now we're looking for different alternatives how to move forward in North American or European markets. So
have you yourself, been an active freedom fighter there?
I tried to register for like territorial defense forces, but we just have too many men volunteering, so I'm on the reserve list, and yeah, basically it's too many people want to defend their home, so which is a good sign.
It's a good sign.
Yeah.
Everybody I know, our hearts go out to Ukrainians, and we feel like brothers. I don't know what that feels like as a Ukrainian. You just hear, U.S. is talking that, but would you want the U.S. to get involved militarily?
It's a tough question.
Because that has a lot of implications for world.
Yeah, it's a tough question. Definitely, NATO could have helped by closing the sky, and because on the ground the Ukrainian army is quite strong, but we just don't have enough aerial defense systems installed, so that's why some of the rockets get through, and then civilians are dying, children are dying. Children are not guilty of this, so it's definitely this conflict is not only involving Russia and Ukraine, that's for sure, and there are other forces that are interested, and how they say war is the best way to make money, so it's true, and there is a lot of fake news and misinformation, so we have to always watch out what are we reading and what are we seeing and listening to, even on TV, because that might not be the case. There's a lot of data manipulation and misinformation, right, on either sides of the conflict, so getting other countries involved, could have definitely Ukraine needs help, more substantial help, because it's a much smaller country than the aggressor, and the amount of weapons. But the bravery of our people, the courage of all Ukrainians that have been united, with such unity and assistance to each other, help people transferring money, giving shelter, donating to the army. We've seen amazing examples of Ukrainian people, and I think the rest of the world have seen what kind of great nation that is.
Yeah, I think so. We've also seen what sort of a madman Vladimir Putin is. He went after Crimea in 2014, and what did you think was happening then? Did you assume he was going for more later, or what?
Well, as a Ukrainian, it's always easy to judge an outsider, but then the Crimea was basically given away without a fight, so that means I have some questions to our government, and you always have to look at the two sides of the problem, and of course, when that happened, and then the war started on Donbas region, where you sort of taken one piece of land, nothing happens. Now we're gonna take another, and the appetites grow, and now we see that it's a genocide of Ukrainian people, right? Because we see millions of people misplaced. A lot of people lost their jobs, lives, businesses, loved ones. There is not even one single Ukrainian that hasn't been affected, and that's quite devastating. It's a big country, it's a rich country with resources. It's around 40 million people in population, so it's a big country by European size,
sure,
standards. So. Of course, the whole world is shaking, because I don't see it stopping anytime soon. You cannot just, if you're killing civilians, you cannot just stop, turn around, and say sorry, and go home, right? So we'll see. We'll see continuation of this conflict.
And the Ukrainian people and the Russian people, they're connected, from historically, almost the same people. I think Russia sort of got its start in Ukraine. Yeah?
Well, it's a definitely different ethnicity. It's a different country with a different language and its own customs. But of course, we all have relatives in Russia, and a lot of Russians have relatives in Ukraine. there is a lot of similarities between our countries, and there are a lot of Russian people they don't want this war to happen, but they've been quiet. They've been brainwashed for many years. They've been quiet and accepting what the government's been doing to them for many years, and this is the price you pay for being quiet for so many years. Now we see embargo, we see many different companies moving out. We see the ruble currency falling down the abyss. So this is going to be economically disastrous. Rolling back, I don't know, 60, 70 years back. You want to transfer money, you cannot. You want to go and pay with Apple Pay, you cannot. You want to order something online, you cannot anymore. You want to replace your car part, because your car broke down, it's a foreign car, you cannot. So it's devastating. And you want to go study somewhere, you want to send your kids somewhere, no longer they're going to be accepted in European universities. That's major problems. I mean, and I didn't see them stopping. These problems cannot be stopped overnight, and sanctions cannot be dropped overnight. It's a process, and it's gonna, and probably Russian nation will feel the pain by the end of the year. In the next couple of years, they really feel the isolation. That's going to be the real Iron Curtain. And the existing government hasn't been doing much for them in the last 22 years, and unfortunately, all they've been doing is ruin people's lives. So these actions that are taken right now, they're not directed towards the greatness of the nation, but quite frankly, it's the opposite. It's a destruction of the nation. It's a big country with many resources. And,
so, to me, you project sort of an aura of strength, and it seems like you have a good attitude. But I definitely feel that you're, great sadness within you. Do you have how do you, what do you tell yourself to get through this? Like, how do you keep an attitude that helps you just get through stuff?
Well, everything happens for a reason. We as a nation, that is the price we pay. We'll move forward. Ukraine already won in many ways. Unfortunately, innocent people died, and we have a lot of ruined lives. Like I've said, families, businesses. But we'll be back. We'll rebuild the country, and I don't see how another country can take over Ukraine in a military way. Maybe there's going to be more sneaky ways to take over our country through legislation and other ways, but not through the military way, because Ukrainian people are quite liberal in their vision of life. So it would be really hard to put them under the same control as Russia, imposes its laws upon their citizens. So I don't see that happening. So life goes on. I think the hardest part it's finished of the war conflict. I really hope so. Unless they're gonna start using chemical and biological weapons, and then of course the whole world will suffer. But I see only good things happening after this, and this is the transition mode that my country has to pass through.
Is there any way to see or imagine a silver lining to this?
Well, unity of the nation. It's unheard of. Ukraine united like never before. Within 4 weeks' time, we couldn't do it. We did what we couldn't do in the last 30 years. I find it fantastic. It's amazing, And finally, people started to believe in their own strength, that they make the decisions, that they can turn different events upside down. They have the strength and power to do so. They're in control of their lives, and of course, we are not receiving the help that we want to from other nations, military-wise, economically-wise, but that gives us more strength to rely on ourselves. That's the best part about it.
And you came to Denver from Ukraine?
It was a trip. I actually flew in from Germany right now,
Okay.
but I had to make my way to Germany.
Are you headed back soon?
I'm heading back to Europe in a couple of days' time. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I wish you the best of luck and Godspeed, and God bless Ukraine.
Thank you.
All right, there you go. That's Sergey Kovalenkov from the Ukrainian Hemp Building Company, Hempire. I spoke with him at the NoCo Hemp Expo in Denver just last week. I will be sharing a few more conversations from NoCo over the next couple of days. We're going to hear from J.J. Johnson, a hemp educator from Texas. We'll hear from Maren Krings. She is a German climate impact storyteller who just wrote a fantastic book about her journey all over the world looking at hemp projects. And the book itself is beautiful, and it's printed on hemp paper, so it's a win-win-win for everybody. And we will also hear my conversation with Joe Hickey. He is a hemp pioneer from the great state of Kentucky. All right, my name is Eric Herlock. I am the digital editor at Lancaster Farming Newspaper, the greatest agricultural newspaper in the world. Check us out online at lancasterfarming.com. All right, well, until next time, I'll see you in the newspaper.
Industrial hemp.
This special edition of the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast is copyright 2022 by Lancaster Farming Newspaper, part of the Steinman Communications family. Today's show was written and recorded, edited, and produced by Eric Herlock, and any music you hear throughout the show, as always, is courtesy of Tin Bird Shadow.